So I've been hearing about the interview process now, especially in the job market today with tech, software engineers, developers are just trying to get in the door and actually start to code and help companies out. I think an interview should be at least 3 rounds. You got a phone screen to see if your skills are actually a good fit for what they're looking for. A technical interview, which will be a roundtable interview with some of the developers that work on a team. They ask you technical questions. You go through a coding exercise and just make sure that you understand the key fundamentals to what they're looking for, to see if you actually be a good fit. And then the last interview would just be a culture fit. And it should just be 3 rounds, point blank period. You get everybody in that you need to, you find the right talent, and then you make a decision right then and there. Having 7 rounds for an interview makes no sense to me. And I feel for you guys that are going through that right now. If you get rejected constantly from a coding interview, take that as a learning experience. I remember when I used to interview and I really didn't practice interviewing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought, based off of my success with interviewing in the past that I still had, and then also the skills that I've obtained at this point, I should be able to interview effectively. I should be able to get a job in no time. Let me tell you, the interview process is very nerve-wracking. You have to prepare as much as possible. That's something that I definitely learned. And in addition to that, if you are high on a job and you don't get it, you're going to be discouraged. But to be honest with you, if you learn from your mistakes and then you understand like, hey, this is what I need to improve on in these interviews, you're going to get into a cadence. The more you interview, you're going to get into a cadence to where you're more confident. You're able to speak in terms of what value you bring, what skills that you have, and some of the stuff that you've accomplished in your career. Number one, in my opinion, when it comes to these interviews, you have to prepare your mind. You have to have the right mindset going into them, because being unconfident, having a lot of stuff on your resume and not being able to explain what's going on your resume is a huge red flag to these hiring managers. So you have to make sure that you understand what the company is looking for, what skills that they want in a developer, and how you fit into that equation. Because if you can't answer that question, you already failed the interview. And I understand, like, people get nervous on interviews. I understand that, but you have to practice as much as possible. Mock interviews is very important. It at least gets you ready for the questions that might come up in the interview, and you'll be more confident to sit there and just give a solid answer and what you would do in that situation. I view interviews as a skill building process, regardless if I do get another interview or I don't, I get rejected. If I get rejected, I have to analyze, okay, what went wrong here? It could be a lot of different things. It could be your approach. It could be just the amount of projects that you have on your portfolio just doesn't align with what the company's looking for, your experience level, all that. And, companies are very particular about experience. If you don't have enough experience on your belt, it's going to be harder for you to get a job. To stand out there, what you need to do is work on a project that is not a traditional project. That's not a clone of another project, okay? If you were to think outside the box and think like, okay, like maybe I could create like a nice dashboard for data. You could data scrape something on the web and get that data and then create like a nice UI dashboard using Material UI, using like some type of framework library to architect and build that UI and create interactive elements on that page. You should be able to get a job in no time just based off that project alone, because that shows that you're creative, that you thought outside of the box. You didn't go the traditional route of just doing tutorials and all that stuff. Having the right mindset going into these interviews and being confident that, hey, I was chosen out of 500 people or 1,000 people to interview, that I know for a fact that I'm going to go into this interview and give it the best that I can. And whatever the outcome is, it is what it is. That changes your mindset to where like anything is possible. Don't get stuck up on, trying to be perfect all the time and just having these doubts about whether you're going to do well or not. At the end of the day, if you prepared enough, then that's all that matters. But every single interview process that you're going to go through, you're going to learn and grow from that. And it's going to get easier and easier as you start to get these interviews. And then, you have to analyze your performance on that interview. Did you answer the questions more effectively? Were there any problems that you got stuck on that you need to review and get better at? And granted, depending on the interview, the questions are going to be different. And what your approach will be might not be in the same path, but at the same time, you'll be able to pivot to be able to answer questions more effectively. Some of these interview questions are ridiculous. I remember doing an interview for a bank, and it was a crazy coding challenge. And I was like, as soon as I saw that coding challenge, I just looked at the dude. I was like, listen, bro, like, you want me to do a binary search for what? But at the end of the day, for any startup, for any other company, you shouldn't be doing a binary search. You shouldn't be doing a binary tree and all these crazy questions. That shouldn't be the thing. Having a standard interview question or a coding challenge that just allows you to work with real world problems that you have to solve on a day-to-day basis. So for example, getting data from an API, how do you go about doing that? How do you display that information in like a data table or something like that? That's simple. That's something that you probably be doing. So if you were able to just work on an exercise like that, a coding challenge, and be able to effectively do that, then that should pass you along. But it's just hard now for these interviews because they put you through so many hoops that you have to jump through just to prove that your worth, and it's ridiculous. Fail these interviews, just analyze your performance. Where were you strong at and where were you weak at? And then just work on the weak areas and keep working on those strong areas and kind of meet in the middle to where, okay, now when I go into these interviews, I know exactly what I need to work on. The biggest thing too is just learning from your mistakes. If you were to fail a coding challenge, it might have been something super simple. You didn't catch an error from an API. I failed that interview because I didn't know try catch, because I never worked with try catch. So like not understanding what is try catch and what's the outcome of that hurt me in the interview process. And ever since then, when it came to interviewing, I just practiced, and made sure that I came confident on those interviews and actually took initiative and be like, you know what, if you guys don't have a coding challenge, let me do a project on my own. I'll build it. You give me the data, I'll mock it, and then I'll put it together, and then we could go through the results and I'll give you the tech stack of what I've done. You need to expand on your knowledge a little bit. For these interviews, you have to not only know the fundamentals and the foundations of a particular, language that you're trying to get a job for, but you have to keep up to date with the technology, right? Like if there's like a new function that people are using, if there's a new way of going about building out a component or building out a page, then you need to know about those standards. Like keeping up with standards will get you further, as opposed to just staying in one methodology. Expanding your knowledge on different things that could help with productivity, and then also ensuring that you are successful as a developer will help you in the interview process. So if there's something new that you want to look into it on your own time, gauge whether it's going to be a good fit for the interview that you're going to be interviewing for, and just be confident, just understanding the fundamentals, because that's all you need at the end of the day. And then the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is just coding beyond the interview. Just because you're interviewing and you get in these interviews doesn't necessarily mean that the coding stops. You have to keep coding. If you're learning something on like Udemy or Coursera, keep learning that every single day. Coding on my own, just trying to figure out like a project and just build something out to where it's enhancing my knowledge for that particular interview has helped me tremendously too. And I can't iterate this enough. If you are going through an interview and they come up with like, hey, there's a technical aspect of it, just try to raise the question and be like, hey, like, I know that, you guys got a technical interview, but would it be more beneficial if I create my own project based off of what you want me to do, just to kind of show like, I know what I'm doing? And usually they'd be like, no, we're going to just go through the technical interview in person or on a call, or you might get lucky and they'll send you data, and then all you have to do is build out the project and then go through that project effectively. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. That could set you up for success for the next interview. You might get a job offer just by doing that and putting in the extra work. That's it, guys. That's the video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I feel bad for you guys that are doing interviews right now. And I kind of want to help you guys with just not taking interviews to heart. Learn as much as you can and just keep getting better. Like once you get an interview, keep getting better. All right. That's all you need to do. Hopefully what I talked about, the different things that you could improve on your interviews, will help you in your new interviews that come up. And let me know how your interview process is going. All right. And if you need any help, if you need help with mock interviews or just looking at your resume, portfolio and all that stuff, you can reach out to me at thefullstackbro@gmail.com. We can get a call set up and we can look at whatever you need to look at. All right. Talk soon.